All right, what's going on? My name is Dr. Danju, and today what I want to talk to you guys about is this whole concept of confidence intervals. Today I want to talk about these confidence intervals. How do you find the lower limits? How do you find the borders for the upper limits? To understand the areas in between that you're confident in. So a good example of this is God looks at people and determines if they are inside of his confidence interval or outside of his confidence interval. God doesn't look at our physical appearance or our physical attributes. What God looks at is the heart of the matter. When Samuel was going to anoint a new king, God told Samuel, don't look at someone's physical attributes. Look at the heart of the matter. That is the confidence area that I'm looking for. Are you consistently doing some things that are right? Or are you not doing anything that is right at all? You're going to be outside of the border. So today, I want to show you how to calculate the lower limit and the upper limit. I also want to show you how to calculate sample size. So what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen with you all, and we're going to get into this lesson for today. All right. If you can, please open up Cengage. All right. Go to class resources. Way down here, class resources. And then under here where it says view resources, click that. All right, open up Cengage. And I also want you to download chapters 8 homework Excel's template right here. So click that, download those two documents. Let's go, let's go. I've already downloaded all of that. I'll start my chapters 8. And I have my Excel right here. So what I'm going to do is a dual screen like that, like that. And if you guys don't mind, can we please start off with 8.01, please? 8.01. And the whole concept, like I said before, is can we find these lower limits, these upper limits, the areas, the confidence areas in between? Can we do those calculations? And can we also find sample size? All right, so 8.01, let me find that. Bam. All right, what I'm gonna do is, I was gonna move it, let me move it over just a tad bit so I can see more of this. All right, and I will move this over as well. Adjust your screen so you can have dual screens, so you can do more work multitasking. All right, so a simple random sample of 30 items. All right, so the sample size is 30. Hopefully by now you're getting familiar with what is a sample size and what is not. The sample mean is 20. Plug in your numbers, please, and your standard deviation. Please note that this represents population standard deviation as opposed to sample standard deviation. All right, is 8 in my case. So what we want you to do is find your standard error, then find your margin of error. All right. So in this example, the standard error is right here. It's not that you guys are just clicking, is that you're using the formula to help understand what is the standard error. If you double click on standard deviation, you can grab your standard deviation's number. If you double click on your sample size, you can grab your sample size number. And bam, you will have your answer, 1.5. Check your work. A lot of you are going to make this mistake right here. You didn't read around your answers to 2 decimal places. Guys, throughout the exam, throughout this assignment, make sure that you're rounding it to 2 decimal places. So under your home tab, you can find under the numbers, you will see this little indent or increased decimal. We want to increase this to 2 decimal places like that. So instead of 1.5, I will put in 0.46, 1.46. Let's see if that is better. Yes, it is. All right. So here is how do you calculate your margin of error? Here's the formula down here. Highlight it, copy it, paste it. What is your alpha value? Click it, grab your alpha value. But in here, your alpha value, we don't have the actual alpha value as of yet. Why? Because we did not put in the confidence interval. Your confidence interval is 95%. You got to change that to a decimal value. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the alpha value of this. I'm going to do my standard deviation of this and my sample size of this. All right, I'm going to press enter. It's going to give me a number because it has to be a decimal number between 0 and 1. All right, so in here, it's 0.95. In business statistics, we normally use a 0.95 confidence area that we're confident about. All right, so once I press that, I can find my answer. Please remember, you need to put this to 2 decimal places. Waka. All right, plug in that answer and you should be good to go on this first one. All right, let's move on to 8.03, please. 8.03. All right, I'm going to make that smaller so I can see it all. Make sure there isn't anything extra in there. All right, good. All right, so I got my value 8.03. Let me find that on here. All right, so here we go, here we go. Every time you guys see 2 boxes, please note to self that you're looking for the lower limit and the upper limit. So hopefully you guys are going to see some Excel tips and tricks that you can actually use to master any problem moving forward. All right, so always document what you know. All right, so in my case, the sample size is 10. My mean is 40. And my population standard deviation is 15. All right, with a confidence level, you have to change this to a 0.95, change it to a decimal. Automatically, your z-score is going to be calculated for you. Here's the formula that we're going to be using, 1.96. At 0.95, at 95%, the z-score is always 1.96 negative and 1.96 positive. All right, so those are the borders that you're looking for. So now that you have your confidence interval of 95%, now that you have your lower z value, your upper z value, how do you calculate your x? Remember, it was x to z to probability. Now we're reversing it. We're going from probability to z, now back to our x values, the lower limits and the upper limits. That's what this is all about. So I'm going to copy this formula right on the top here for my lower limit. Copy that. I'm going to paste that in there. If I double click on my mean, I can grab my mean's number. If I double click on my alpha, I can double click on my alpha's number. Standard deviation, grab it, and sample size, grab it. All right. Now, once you have all of this, remember there's 2 formulas in one when we dealt with confidence interval. There's the lower limit, which is the minus side, and the upper limit is the plus side. So copy this formula again. Copy it right in here. You've already selected everything. Copy it. Press enter. You're going to get the lower limit. If you double click in here and paste that formula that you just copied and change this to a plus, you don't have to redo all of that stuff. All of that stuff is standard for the lower limits and the upper limits. All you need to do is change it to a plus and you will have your upper limits. So let's check this, make sure this is 1 decimal place, bam, bam. All right, so 30.7 and 49.3. Hopefully you guys are getting this concept and it's starting to make sense why we're doing what we're doing. All right, on this one, your sample size is 110. Now you guys need to do the same kind of formula. All right, find your lower limit, find your upper limit, use your alpha value, use your standard deviation, but use this new sample size right here. All right, copy your formula. Once you have it, change it to a plus and you will have the lower limits. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So you can find the lower limit and you can find your upper limit if you have your confidence interval value that you're looking for, 95%. Perfect. Let's move on. Let's go to 8.11, please. All right. I don't know where that is. Let's see. 8.11. All right, here we go. So I know the normal distribution is probably one of the most widely used, but the t distribution is actually what we will be using in the real world. All right. Most times we do not have population standard deviation. We have sample standard deviation. And if we're using sample standard deviation, we're going to be using the t distribution table, all right, or probabilities to help us make informed decisions. So here, they're asking, what is your degrees of freedom? It says my degrees of freedom is 16. Plug it in for you, please. What is my t value for the first one? 2.120. Cool. So if I want my areas to the right, t is greater than t1. All right, it's greater than this number. To the right of this number, you must do 1 minus. So copy that formula, paste it in there. And if you double click on T1, you can grab T1's value. Double click on your degrees of freedom, grab your degrees of freedom's value. And it always ends in true because you're accumulating these points. All right. And then you press enter. And that's how we came up with 0.025. Check your work. Bam. I'm going to just do this last one because I love the in-betweens. How do I find my probabilities between two values? All right, so I'm just going to scroll down to the very last one. Went too far. All right, what is my T7 or my first T value? Negative 1.746, positive 1.746. All right, so we got our values right there. Copy the formula, please. Copy the formula, paste it in there. All right, leave the t dot distribution. Any dots or anything after parentheses you want to leave alone. Those are most likely the functions. All right, so if I double click on T8, remember it's your largest one first. When we're dealing with range, largest minus smallest, right? So we must click the largest value for T8, click it. Degrees of freedom, if you scroll back up, click it. All right, and then T7, click it. And then degrees of freedom, scroll up and click it. All right, up, click it. All right, so you should have everything in there. All right, press enter. And you're going to find the probability between these two values is 0.9 or 90%. Check your work. Outstanding. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right, let's move on to 8.13, please. 8.13. All right, I'm going to make this just a tad bit smaller. All right, I'm going to actually move this formula key right down here. All right, and we're going to get this rocking. So 8.13. I thought I saw that like way down here, maybe not. Okay, maybe that was this one right here. All right, perfect. So here is your data. Plug in what you know. Plug in your data. Even if it's less, plug it in as you see it. Remember, junk in equals junk out. Make sure that you're plugging these in correctly. Bam, I got my data right there. All right, so it's asking, what is the point estimate of the population mean? All right, basically, what is the mean? What does the sample mean? Here, what is the point estimate of the population standard deviation? What is your sample standard deviation? You're using a sample to understand the population parameters, basically statistical inference. But I'm going to maximize this because I want to show you there's two ways to do this. There is the descriptive statistic way, and then there's the manual formula way. This will be on your exam. So I'm going to show you both ways. Both ways you can verify if your answers are correct. All right. So I'm going to start off with a descriptive statistic and show you how to find the lower limits and the upper limits. All you're doing is the mean minus basically your margin of error. All right. And the same thing plus your margin of error, and you will get these answers. So let's do a descriptive statistic of this. Click on data, data analysis, click on descriptive statistic and click on OK. All right, for my input, I'm going to select all of my data, just my data points. I don't have any labels. I'm just going to select all of the data. It is in a column. I do not need to check this because I did not select the label. I did not include the label. I'm going to put the output right at H1, right here. And we must select two, at least two of these. Well, you can select one, but you can select summary statistics and confidence level at 95%. All right. Most times in business stats, we're using 95% confidence level. All right. So once we have this, click on OK. It automatically shows up right here. If for some reason up here it says a number, you included the label. Make sure you don't have the label selected. All right, so right off the bat, you will have your lower limit and your upper limit. But on the exam, every time you change your numbers, you will have to do a new descriptive statistic. And some of you guys are going to mess this up on the exam. A safe way of doing it is to work out these answers right here. All right. Note to self, there are no spaces within Excel. All right, when you're dealing with formulas. Do you see like equals to space average? There's no spaces in between. So if I were you, I will go in there and correct it all. Take out my spaces, all right? Enter. Down here, it's up here, all right? And what I like to do is put my formulas down. All right, leave it isolated. If you press Alt and Enter for Windows users, for Mac users, if you press, give me a second. For Mac users, if you press Options and Enter, you can go down within a cell like that. All right, here it is again, count. Take out your spaces and drop it down, Alt, Enter. All right. Now you're ready to go. So here is my average formula. Copy that, paste that. What is the sample? All your numbers, all right? This 10 should match up to this value right here. Standard deviation, paste. Grab all of your data points. Perfect. All right, how do you find the count or the sample size? It's the count of your data. Copy, paste, and grab it all. Press enter. All right, your confidence level is 95%, but you must use decimals, 0.95. And automatically your t-score is going to update, bam. All right, what is your margin of error? You copy this right here. Do you see how this is like up here and this is down here? I would put enter, all right? And then I would delete this. So they're all in just one row, all right? Just make it do what it do. Make it right on your end, please. I'm gonna copy that formula, paste that in there. What is my alpha? Double click on alpha, grab my alpha's number. Double click on my standard deviation, and grab my standard deviations number up here. What is my N? Grab my sample size. All right, Do you see 3.3 is the same as this number right here? If you were to just go one decimal place. How do I find my lower limits? How do I find my upper limits? Here is your formula down here. Grab it, copy it, paste it. All right, what is your mean? Grab your mean. Here's your mean, grab it. What is your alpha? Grab it. What is your standard deviation? Grab it. What is your sample size? Grab it. Remember, when it's minus in here, if you copy this formula, you can then find your upper limits. So copy that, press enter, Control C, Command C, press enter, double click, Control V, Command V, and change that to a plus. All right, bam, and you will have your lower limits, bam, and your upper limits, bam. So going back, this is your better option. Make sure you guys get this. So if you are online right now, you can take a screenshot of this and make sure that your Excel template mirrors or looks similar to this. The cool part about this is when you change your numbers here, these will automatically update. This will not. So make sure you have this correct. So once you jump into that exam, you got this ready to rock and roll. All right, so I'm just gonna slide that over there like that. And what is my point estimate? All right, 10. And I'm just gonna do the lower limits and the upper limits. Make sure, you see how that says one decimal place? Move it over, y'all. So on here, one decimal place. One decimal place. Make sure you're checking your decimal places. All right, so this is 6.7 and 13.3. Check your work. You guys should be good to go on this one right here. All right, moving right along. Let's go to 8.17. This one, I believe, is on your exam. So I think that was the first one right here. Good. This one is a little tough, so follow me on this. We will be doing this in two ways, all right? I'm gonna do this the descriptive statistic way, and then I'm gonna do this the manual way. So here we go, here we go, here we go. I'm gonna just highlight, if you can, just highlight all of your numbers, please. Copy it, Control C. I'm gonna maximize this so we can see all of this. All right, and I'm gonna make this a little smaller like this. So here is 8.17. What I want you guys to do is on this cell right down here, it says paste your data below. Right in this first cell, click it. Not the second one, the first one. Click it and do Control V or Command V. It automatically puts your data in there. Now, if on the test you cannot just copy it, you're gonna have to manually plug these in, all right? I would highly recommend that you manually plug them in a column section, all right, as opposed to rows like this. But one of the things that you guys are gonna need to learn, tips and tricks of Excel, is how to transpose a column or a row into a column. How do you take rows and put them into a column within Excel? Now watch me on this and please listen to this first and then try it on your own. On this first cell, all right, a lot of you guys, when you're trying to click and drag, you go to the bottom here, the bottom right, and you drag. If you do that, you see how these are different numbers? You're basically dragging the number 5 over like that. That is not what you want. So I'm gonna do Control Z to undo that. You wanna click in the middle of the cell. Click it, hold it, and then drag it. That's the correct way within Excel how to highlight a whole bunch of numbers, just like we have here. Once you have highlighted it, I want you to copy it. Control C or Command C if you're a Mac user. Copy it. Go up right here to this cell A1 and right click. All right. And then what I want you to do for my Mac users, you can press on Pay Special on that first cell, Pay Special, and you're looking for transpose. You'll see transpose, is that little down arrow, up arrow, that is transpose. All right, so for my Windows users, you can see it right here. Here's your transpose, transpose it. Basically, what you're doing is taking it from a row and converting it into a column. Do the same thing for the second row, please. Highlight it, copy it. On the bottom here where it is still dark, all right click and transpose. Do the same for the third cell. Copy it, click it, transpose it. And you guys are going to get much faster as you do this and practice more. Scroll down, click it, right click, transpose it. All right. You should have 50 data points if you started from the very top. All right. 50 data points in total. All right. Perfect. So now I need to do a descriptive statistic of this data right here. Data, data analysis, descriptive statistic. Click on OK. All right. Delete all of this stuff in here. We're going to start afresh from the very top all the way down to the last number. All right, A1 to A50. It's in a column. We do not have any labels. We're going to put our output right at G1. All right, you got summary statistics, you got confidence level, press OK. It automatically puts it in there. All right, we got our lower limits and we got our upper limits right down here. But how do we do this in a manual way? So when you guys show up to the exam, you don't need to do all these manual calculations. All right, or you don't need to do a descriptive statistic. It should automatically pop up here. So let me plug these in really fast. All right, the formula for mean, hopefully by now you're saying, yo, man, isn't that the average in Excel? And then the range of numbers. All right, how do you find the standard deviation? If I press Alt and Enter, all right, actually, let me go in here so you can see it. All right, it's equal to STDEV dot S for sample, and then the range, that's the formula. How do you find the count? I'm going to double click in here. I'm going to press Alt and Enter, equals to the count times the range. All right. So now I can grab this stuff right here. Highlight your formula, copy it, paste it. What is my range? If I double click on range, I can then select all of my values. Bam, and press enter. All right, so you guys can see this. Perfect. How do I find my standard deviation? Grab the formula, paste it in there. And the more practice you guys do with this is the better you're going to become. All right, so double click so you can see that. Oh, let me escape out of that. All right, hide that again. All right, how do I find my count? Copy that, paste that, give me the range of everything. Press enter. All right, you guys are gonna see how I came up with a count of 50. All right, and then my confidence level is 0.95. Press enter, and this is gonna automatically update. Here we go. Bam. All right, how do I find my lower limits? Here's your formula. Copy that, paste that right there. Now, a lot of you will get frustrated when you see the formula looking like this. Don't panic, scroll up, it's up here, all right? Here you can see it much better and it's linear. So you can double click on your mean right up here, grab your means number. Double click on your alpha, grab your alpha's value. Double click on your standard deviation, double click on your N, and grab your sample size. This right here, this formula right here is this formula right here. The negative represents the lower limit. The positive represents the upper limit. Two formulas in one. Brilliant, whoever came up with this. But now that we know that we have the lower limit, you can copy this to get the upper limit. All you need to do is change it to a plus. Enter, double click, V, change this to a plus to get the upper limit. Press enter, and you will have your numbers. So on your exam, make sure that you have both of these. You have the descriptive statistic and you have the manual calculations calculated for you. You can actually, on the exam, plug in all of your numbers, go down the line, plug them in, all right? This should automatically update for you, all right? So let's plug these in. What is my lower limit? And they want 2 decimal places, 5.19 and 6.81. Check your work. Let's go, let's go, let's go. You're doing great. You are doing great. All right, so now what I want to do is then move on to 8. All right, 8.23, please. 8.23. I'm gonna make that a little smaller. Where did I see 8.23? All right, it's way down here. All right, how large a sample? So basically, you're trying to solve for your sample size. How large a sample should be selected to provide a 95% confidence interval with a margin of error of 4. So margin of error is 4. My standard deviation is 20. And my confidence interval is 0.95. It's going to update, bam. All right, what is the sample size that I'm looking for? Copy this and paste it. All right, if you double click on Z, you can grab your Z's number. Double click on your standard deviation, grab your standard deviation's number. Double click on E, grab your E's number. Now, one of the things that you must know with sample size, you must round up to the next whole number, even if it's at 0.04. You must encapsulate all of the possible sample sizes to the next whole number. So this one, in order to fully capture 96.04, you must go to 97. Always, always round up. Check your work. All right, so make it do what it do for you on your Excel. I've put in there the note, round it up to the next whole number. So that way it will trigger a memory in your thoughts. Make sure that you're always rounding up your sample size. All right, let's go to 8.29, please. 8.29, bam. All right, so I'm not gonna read through all of this, but right here, it says my standard deviation time of 4 minutes. So the parameters that we're using is minutes, all right? When you see 4 minutes, everything must be done in minutes. All right, what is my confidence interval? 0.95, 95, enter. All right, what is my margin of error? Within 75 seconds. 75 seconds is how many minutes? So if you don't know how to do this calculation, you can just put equals to 75 divided by 60. 60 seconds equals 1 minute. All right, and that will be 1.25. All right, how do I find my sample size? Here is my formula right here. Copy it, paste it. What is my Z? Grab my Z's value. Standard deviation, right here, and my E, right here. All right, and you must always, always round up. All right, you guys should be able to do this last one. Here, my samples or my margin of error is 1. Use the new margin of error, and you should be able to get your answer. All right, so in here, it's going to be 40. Check my work. Let's go. Let's go. All right, hopefully this is starting to make sense. All the stuff that you've learned in class, now you're able to apply it within Excel in a systematic way. All right, let's finish these up, please. Let's go to 8.33. All right, 8.33. All right, bam. All right, so on this one, you do not know your population standard deviation. You know your proportion, all right? You know your margin of error, and you know your confidence interval. Let's plug those in, please. 0.25, my margin of error is 0.1, and my confidence interval is 0.95. How do you calculate your sample size? Here's your formula. Copy that, paste that, grab it. Double click on P, grab your P. Double click on P, grab your P. Double click on E, grab your E. All right. And you must always, always round up. All right. So you guys should be able to plug that in and get your answer. All right. I think we got two more. Let's go to MC08.38, please. All right. 08-038. All right. So in developing an interval estimate of the population mean, if the population standard deviation is unknown, when we don't know the population parameters, what t-table or what are we actually using to understand the population? Isn't it the sample? So that's why we're using the sample standard deviation instead of the population standard deviation and a t-distribution. So please note that to self. Check your work. All right, so on here, I'm just gonna maximize this so I can see it all. Because you can't see it, just drag it over in between A and B, tips and tricks. So you can see it all. All right, and this would be that. If you cannot select it, just click on this first box right here and change the color. All right, let's go to the last one, 8.57, please, 8.57. Let me put that like that. All right, and we're gonna click on this guy right here. All right, so we're trying to find the lower limits and the upper limits again, using proportion this time around. So here is my proportion value, 47% or 0.47. What is my sample size? 450. What is my confidence interval? 0.95, consistent across the board. How do I find my lower limit for my proportion? Here's the formula. Copy that, paste that right there, double click on P, grab my P, double click on Z, grab my Z's. Double click on P again, grab your P. Yeah. Double click on P, grab your P. All right, and here is your sample size. All right, B2 is your sample size. So because you have a negative and you want to find a positive as well, copy this formula right here. Copy it, copy it, copy it. Press enter, double click, paste it, and change it to a positive. All right, so those should be your lower limits, lower limit, and your upper limit. Check your work. Let's go, let's go, let's go. In this one, they're dealing with a confidence level of 99% as opposed to 95%. So 0.99, you guys should be able to calculate using this new Z value. Let's get that A. All right, so with that set, we stop sharing. Thank you all for listening to this topic on confidence intervals. Remember, ultimately, what we're trying to do is find the lower limit, find the upper limit. We're going from probability to Z to our X values or our proportion values. We can also calculate the sample size. Understand these confidence intervals and how to find your lower limits and your upper limits using Excel. You can do this. You got this. Let's get that A. Good work, class.